Hey y'all, it's Trent Knox with the Trent Knox Show. This is Season 3, Episode 13, Podcasts. In this episode, I'm going to discuss how to get started in podcasting, and I'm going to talk about some of the podcasts that influenced me, and also about my kind of how I got started in podcasting. And I had a question. I've been joining some Facebook groups, and I've seen that some of the questions relate to what are your favorite podcasts, what established you, what influenced you, what got you into recording podcasts and being out there with your content. So let's break it down. I got into podcasts and live streams on Twitch TV and YouTube and Periscope and Ustream, whatnot. If we take it way back to when I first saw my first live stream was in the 2007, I want to say, or 2008, and it was on Ustream, and I had been watching it for about 6 months, 7 months, or something like that, and then the show that I was watching stopped, didn't exist any longer. The streamer quit streaming. So let me take this back. I forgot to do a bit of housekeeping. So initially, with these episodes, I want to reintroduce myself. So reintroducing myself, I am Trent Knox. I am a young entrepreneur looking to transcend his way through podcasting and online media and become a better version of himself through the podcast and interviews. And so for those of you who are new to this podcast, I highly recommend going back and listening to the old episodes and getting into the groove with what we got going on here. Okay, so I was watching this show with called the it was called The Mason Show, or I can't remember, Mason on House Arrest or something like that. There was a man who was on house arrest, and he was recording and live streaming every day, or for quite a few days, and I can't remember or recall what he was on house arrest for, or what it was every episode was about, but it was a really interesting show in which he communicated and he took calls. Like, people could call in and speak to him over the phone. There was chat. There was all the pieces really early in 2007 for a live online talk show. And so I watched that, and then in about 2011 to 2012, I started to get into Justin TV, and I watched a lot of talk shows, online media, and a little bit of gaming on there. And then Twitch TV came about. I can't remember what year exactly that it came about, but I started watching it, and I watched a lot of WCS and GOM TV and whatever was on Twitch at the time. And then so after I got into that, I in 2016 I decided to start streaming myself. And what I did was I was working in a conservatory of the arts where students were able to make music, talk to each other, and kind of record music and do theater and it was a really cool setup. But when the students weren't there, I was able to utilize the recording studio. So I was learning how to DJ. I was teaching myself how to record music. I was teaching myself how to produce music and do different sorts of audio effects and whatnot. And so I got pretty crafty, and I thought, okay, well, I'll do my audio effects and audio engineering while I'm live on Twitch and YouTube, I think, or mostly YouTube. And so I started doing that, and it wasn't until 2017, I think, early 2017, to where I decided I wanted to do a podcast, a live show. It was more of like a live show than it was a podcast per se, because the content that I wanted to be producing on the live show was more specific to the local area I lived in, that I live in, Austin, and covering the music, artist brands and events in that area, and getting an idea of basically what was going on. Because at the time I had a few friends, but I didn't really know what was available for entertainment reasons in Austin. It was always, you kind of had to stumble upon it. You had to kind of get into what was going on there. So I started this company, or this idea, Austin Live and Local, and I had like 4 individuals that were working with me at the beginning, and we recorded like almost every Tuesday at 8 p.m. and we recorded just different places inside their house. We recorded on the back patio. We recorded in the kitchen. We actually moved it into the garage and started recording like a little garage show. And then we eventually broke up, and at this time that live show was only on Facebook, I believe. And I don't know what that was due to a lack of technology or whatever the reason that was. But so we were getting up in production, and we were utilizing their Canon to do the live recordings, and we were really getting to a groove, and we had something going, but it just didn't pan out. So we had some differences, and the Chris and Robert and Sebastian went separate ways, and they wanted to do more of a side project, and not make it as serious as I wanted to. So I had brought Brian Kern on to help manage and navigate as we move forward toward making the production a little bit bigger, but they weren't ready to make that move with me. So that separated, and I went and I started doing the show with Brian, which was not my intention, but it was worth our time to do what we could to kind of salvage some of the work that had been going on. But there was a bit of a conflict of interest in some ways, because Brian had already begun starting his podcast Common Chaos, branding wise. I may have been like a proponent in him moving it forward and being in the first episode of the Common Chaos, and recording with that. However, his passion, his drive would have been better suited if it was if it was solely directed into Common Chaos, instead of creating this other project that would get in the way of him being able to be devoted to his show, Common Chaos Podcast. So I had moved over to do the Austin Live and Local with Brian in his at his house, in his like spare, in his it's kind of like a sunken room, or not sunken room. It's like it's like a converted garage to additional living room space. In this side living room, we recorded a couple of the first episodes, and it was good. It was great. And then we kind of upgraded, and we went to start recording in a studio in South Austin, and we recorded a couple different episodes there. We upgraded some of the technology, the cameras, the podcasting equipment, and whatnot. And I utilized Brian's stuff a little bit, but primarily we used the stuff at the studio. And then we recorded with a couple different artists, a couple different people. Then we eventually went and did some event work, and I think I bit off more than I could chew. My production team was good, but it was difficult to kind of, I didn't have the budget to cover all the things that I wanted, and then not everyone on the team was dedicated to helping me grow the business. So, and they had their own interests, and not all of them were able to kind of pay attention to what I had going on. And so it kind of didn't come to fruition like I expected it to. And they were volunteering their time, but they kind of inadvertently, aside from obviously Brian, who was who a little bit more mature, and Doug a little bit more mature, the rest of them were not, they weren't the most concerned about the project that we were working on. They were more concerned about their own interests at the event that we went to. So that kind of had its way, and so the next opportunity that I had outside of that was to move the recording of, we had some issues with scheduling times with the podcast at the studio that we were recording at, and we were having issues with the internet going out, not always having time to record, equipment issues. I was experiencing issues that were more detrimental, or they seemed detrimental to me, whereas Brian was more, it fit his needs a little bit more than mine. And so we went and we recorded one episode or 2 episodes. We did our best to record at this studio off North Lamar, North Burnett Road, and called Launchpad Studios. A good friend of mine, Ty Gibson, and Coach, and his friend A, they run this studio over there off Burnett Road, and shout out to them. They allowed us to come in and do an episode, 2 episodes actually, and it worked. For what it's worth, it worked out. It wasn't perfect. Not everything we needed was there, but it worked for what it was worth for a couple episodes, and I never went back, but thinking now I might go back there and do some more recordings. It's my main thing about that was that there was no internet at that particular location, and we were kind of fighting the technological difficulties there, so it got to be a burden, and so we had to separate from that. And as a result, Brian and I kind of decided that we would separate our paths, and he would focus more on the Common Chaos, and I would focus more on my personal show, Trent Knox Show, and kind of let Austin Live and Local breathe for a little bit, have the content that was developed for that show, let it come to fruition in some ways, because we weren't really getting people to, we weren't spending any marketing money or advertising money into getting those shows to be, comparable to an I Love You So Much on Austin 360 or The Horn or other shows that are comparable to what kind of the content of Austin Live and Local is, because Austin Live and Local's content is more derived from the independent and the non-network, the more underground scene of different genres in Austin, for artists, brands, and events. And while we were doing some work to try and elevate it to be more of like a news podcast coverage of Austin, the issues that started to arise were that the big three, South by Southwest, ACL, and Mala Luna or whatever, those or Jambalaya, or these bigger productions were kind of giving us the cold shoulder and telling us that we weren't valuable enough to cover their event, or that we didn't have enough marketing money or advertising money being spent into creating a viewer base, and that our demographic wasn't large enough for them to utilize our services, and it seems kind of ridiculous since it costs them nothing to get free press coverage, and it seems like it's a no-brainer that they would let us cover their event, but we were running into that, so we kind of went and I put that on the wayside. But at the same time, I started working with another individual whom we had met through seeking. I was seeking out different sorts of producers and whatnot, and I sought out this individual named Tanner Walters, and he was a YouTube guy that was recording a show called Me and My Camera. The grammar on that is a little bit off, but he was recording this show and he was uploading it to YouTube. He had done a few episodes, and he really he was elevating his content, and so we spoke with him. We wanted to bring him on and help him do his project as he helped us move Austin Live and Local forward. And he was more selfish and self-centered, and more specifically focused on having people do free volunteer work for his company, where that he wasn't working with the balance of doing free for free work for me, and then free work for him. He was just trying to utilize other people to do his work for him without, providing something back. And so I went and I just said, if you want me to help you build your project and not focus on my project, then we really need to come to an agreement monetarily and figure out some equity and whatnot in your project, so that I'm not just doing this work for nothing, and that we are in agreement that there's a long-term benefit for me to do work for him. So we ended up coming to an agreement, nothing on paper, and I worked kind of hand in hand with him for a couple different weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I worked with him, and we built a foundation for his company, Creators Media. And he had already had a little bit of some clients that he had started working with because he was doing an internship at a VC firm, and that particular work was developing into a podcast for that company. But he was more looking to start creating his own content and utilizing Creators Media to educate people on a variety of different subjects. So he was looking to create his own online education system, and he was looking to do that with not making it open source, but putting it behind a payment wall. There was a lot that was going on, and I was doing a lot, and at least in theory, there was a lot of planning, a lot of brainstorming that was going on toward working this project out. And he made a couple different choices that made it difficult to move the business forward. He focused more on his personal life than he focused on his business life. He was essentially expecting other people to execute on a business that he was running without the correct direction being established, and no foundation of his own in writing to get other people to be able to work with him. He was establishing his business. I was pushing him to get the paperwork done for the business, get the financial means out there to be ready to grow and allow people to get into the ecosystem. And he was getting that. I was one of the first ones to do that. But we just completely did not see eye to eye on the work-life balance. And I'm more of like, if you expect people to work with you, you have to be 95% work and then 5% life. And he was looking for more of a balance of, 75% life, 25% work. And he was working hard in that 25%, no doubt about it. The issue was he wasn't delivering on that 25%. He was investing a lot of money into expensive camera equipment, and then not fully using that equipment to its full potential. And instead of making, creators, instead of making Austin Live and Local a client of Creators Media, he decided to cut ties with my work at all. And so I was very upset with this, because I was developing podcasts. I was helping record some of the media that they were putting together. I went and did a shoot. I was helping with a current client, and he was pulling out of the client deal with the other client, and it was just frustrating, and he left me in a bad space. I don't have any animosity towards him any longer, but that was tough and hard to comprehend with what was going on at the time. And then additionally to that, I previously had been doing social media content and development for this bar that with Arash Sabier, or whatever you pronounce it, called Spinner's Bar and Grill. And I was putting together Snapchat videos, Instagram, Facebook, booking, bar backing, working with the kitchen with advertisement for that, trying to promote this like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's it's a sweepstakes machines that are associated to the place. Anyway, so this is kind of getting away from podcasting, but it's media in general. And so those are two of my biggest opportunities that I've done in this space, as far as like making money from producing online media content, where was working with creators and working with actually I've had three experiences, maybe four experiences in this industry, creating and in some facet making the way on online media production, digital media production, and marketing and advertising. The first experience I had in that was with KRDO, the 13, the news channel affiliate for ABC in Colorado Springs. Arguably, and then, well, actually, that's not the first. Before that, I was doing the video and content creation for the Colorado Springs Conservatory, then KRDO, then the bar at Spinner's Bar and Grill, and then I started working for Creators Media, and then now I'm completely independent. No, I don't work for anyone other than myself as far as content creation goes. And in order for there to be some sort of content creation, podcasting, live streaming, video, you name it, then there has to be a formal contract in writing with a terms of service, and a point of sale. There's just a lot that has to go into it. And so the contract has to be between the company and my media company, and it gets, at this point, I just want things to be smooth and not have a lot of conflict in creating content for other people, because I keep on running into this point at which people are not ready to pull on their budget, or they're not ready to pull on their content. They're just late. They're not on the same page with me, because I've been doing a lot of personal work for them, whereas I haven't done a lot of business work with them. So my business is has developed out of these experiences, and so now I'm trying my best to work that out in the podcasting and live streaming realm of content, as well as event production. So now I get out of all of this mess and I focus myself in 2018 in I want to say July, or I can't remember exactly. Actually, now I think about it, I can look it back up and I can tell you guys when I started focusing on myself. So around August time frame. Yeah, in August of 2018, July of 2018, I started looking into focusing on my podcast, and for 2 months I spent solely working on the Trent Knox Show. I looked to record every single day, and at this time I was able to do this because I had been let go from creators and from the Spinners Bar and Grill and from the the other side job that I had. I got let go from all those, and so I was on unemployment, and I was able to utilize that to try and build my business while seeking out an opportunity somewhere else. And so I was looking for a job somewhere, and I wasn't exactly sure where I would find this job. So in the end of August, I actually got away from the Trent Knox Show, and I was going to focus on helping an individual do their work, and in exchange we were going to try and help each other grow, because I was trying to focus on creating content for that individual or other individuals through music videos and live streaming and social media and recording music, podcasts. I was doing a lot of media content creation for no cost for Tyler Carter, Ty C, Chef Carter, and the reciprocation of what he could do for me wasn't there. And so I was putting a lot of energy into his projects, and then he made this expectation that I was supposed to, aside from having to make all of my money that I was creating and give it to him for him to live in the space that he was living in, and then it was expectation for me to compensate for helping him. It didn't translate into a good relationship, so I had to sever myself from the situation, because there was no benefit to me. It was as if he wasn't ready to elevate himself and take responsibility for his own his own actions and for what he needed to do. And in no direct relation, I had, you know, he created he created certain things to happen that didn't need to happen. So I got my car broken into. I lost a $800 laptop and an iPad, and I just lost a backpack. All my production equipment, all my mobile production equipment, gone, never to be seen again. And that really was the thing that broke the straw on the camel's back. But we tried to work through that for as long as we could. I tried to ignore it and leave it be, and it just didn't work. And that laptop being stolen is still a problem. It not only is all that data that I had on the damn thing caught up, but I had a notebook inside of there, paper, that had a whole lot of data toward what I'm trying to build. It had my blueprint for all of my companies in that book where I was writing, and it's gone, and I have to deal with that. And I have to expect that people won't hack my laptop that was stolen and steal all of my information, all my pertinent details. And I just don't know. I don't know what to do as far as that goes. And then on top of that, small things started to go missing. Headphones, chargers. Just it was as if, like, I don't know, like there was no respect towards my possessions that I was utilizing to elevate my business. It was as if I was supposed to devote all my money and my energy to a person that was not reciprocating money or energy. So the relationship of what he was communicating with other people was that I was managing, or I was working with him on his projects, his Chef Carter, his whole social media management, and some booking and stuff, which he was able to do mostly on his own because there wasn't a lot of compensation for that I was kind of left in a position of wondering what was going on. So then in the beginning of 2019, we decided, I didn't have any more money to give him for his, living situation, living expenses, for his, for him to keep on floating his life. I didn't have any more energy, finances. I didn't have anything to give him to float his life any longer. My life was not working out that great because I was putting in the energy towards his stuff, and then he was audacious enough to say that I wasn't putting any energy into his projects, and that if I was smart, I would scrap content from his work and the things that he's doing, even though that was not what I desired to do. There were there are aspects of what he's got going on which I was covering and I was creating content around, and then for him I'm very frustrated with that circumstance. Probably more frustrated with that circumstance because I believed in this man than this gentleman, and I still believe he change his ways, that I believed in him. I'm more frustrated in that than I am with Tanner and Arash, because at least those guys are driving their business forward and not essentially. There's a lot of risk that is taken in Tanner's business because he's utilizing a lot of debt and to move his company forward, and creating a false reality. But with Arash, he made his scruples, and he spins his scruples whatever way he wants to spin his scruples. And I respect that, and it's just a complicated world, and to express yourself in a way, whatever medium that you're expressing yourself in, you have to be authentic to that medium, whether it's owning a bar and creating a neighborhood bar or whatnot, or that's owning a media company and creating media for clients, or that's hip hop and you're making music for people to listen to and people to enjoy. But if you're creating battle rap hip hop or conflict ensued hip hop, then, and there's no lesson to be learned from, no positive lesson to be learned from the message that you're trying to convey over your hip hop, then you are a nuisance to society, and there's no reason for people to believe in you or invest their time in you, because you're not investing your time in them. That person is solely concerned in the benefit that they get from an egotistical hip hop, showing off or whatever. And that is what hip hop has become in a commercial state. But if you're not being picked up or signed by a major label, why are you creating that type of music? Not to resonate with the people and spread a positive message. The message that person's providing is a negative message. Tyler Carter is providing a negative message about ego and being selfish and self-centered. So that is what people get paid to do, and this man doesn't get paid to do that. Other than his mom giving him money, which everyone, I feel like we all kind of fight with this, and I get where that you could turn this, you could flip the tables on what I'm saying and say that people can learn, do as I say, not as I do. So, or learn from my mistakes, and because I'm expressing myself and I'm talking about the problems that I have, and then you utilize that subject matter and content to help people do the right thing. But the problem is, if you don't acknowledge you're doing the wrong thing and then provide people with the direction to do the right thing and why and reason why what you're doing is the wrong thing, then they will never learn how to do the right thing. What they do is instead say, oh, this person's an asshole, or this person's a dick, or this person is a is rude or disrespectful or unkind, and that's what they see. They don't see that the message that you're saying is, yes, I am these things, and this is what I'm doing to try and correct that. Unless you're looking to not correct those problems, and you're looking to continue to scam, adulter, disrespect, and whatnot. But in some way, you got to start profiting from that, and not creating a conflict between the people that are your acquaintances and the people that have to deal with you on a daily basis. People don't want to deal with that shit. I don't want to deal with that shit. All I want to do is work with people who are like-minded and help people that aren't like-minded or going down a bad path, and establish some sort of discourse with and learn, because not everybody's going to do the thing the same way, but they can come to a conclusion what the best option is, and for the community at large, not the two parties. Because the two people may argue about the same thing and come to two different conclusions, but the conclusion needs to be in reference to the community at large. So if they disagree, what's best for everyone that's surrounding them? Maybe that's a divorce, maybe that's a breakup, maybe that's whatever, but sometimes you had to power through it and come to a conclusion as a result that benefits everyone. And I don't know what that is all the time. So that's a bit of what the Trent Knox Show is about, and why I put this podcast together is that I've been hearing a lot of different messages from Gary Vaynerchuk, Joe Rogan, and Adam 22. Who else am I leaving out here? Aubrey Marcus. I also listen to Brian Kern, the Comic Chaos podcast, the Beerist I've been listening to. There are a couple different podcasts, and I'm sorry if I left out any of you guys' names and do any shout outs. I forgot. But these particular podcasts really have elevated my consciousness and let me kind of put together an idea of why I'm doing a podcast. And the reason why I'm doing a podcast is to talk to myself and express to myself what are some of my weaknesses, and what am I doing that is making it difficult for me to communicate my message to, or what I know, or communicate my message, my message to people in the everyday life, on radio, on podcasts, on live streams. Just basically tell people what I'm thinking. That's it. What am I thinking, and conveying that in words to other people. And when I'm talking on a microphone and I'm talking myself through this, I feel like in situations I'm not always recollecting the data that I need to communicate a message effectively. And so I think that, talking about the problems that I have to myself, and then listening to the podcast again, I'll be able to learn from that. And so in addition, I bring on guests that I feel have a expertise or knowledge in a subject matter that I enjoy talking about, or I know that I can learn from, and I basically garner that information and I put it into a package in which I can comprehend, and maybe my communication level on that subject matter will be elevated and improved. But I feel like some of these episodes that I do for the Trent Knox Show don't always live up to the expectation, live up to my expectations, and so I get kind of frustrated with the way that I'm talking, or that I'm trying to hide my accent, or I'm trying to talk like other podcasters, or convey my message in a different way. I feel like sometimes I get a headache from hearing myself not talk intelligently or audibly, and that sometimes the words that I'm using, I don't use a lot I don't speak those words a lot, but in my head I say them. So it's hard for me to communicate the words out of my mouth. So sometimes it sounds unaudible or hard to hear because I don't use those words in reality a lot. I just use them when I'm thinking about a subject matter or trying to critically think about something that is going on in my external reality, instead of the comprehension that I'm having in my internal reality. And those things are separated. I'll buy it that not that people, all kinds of people do with this problem, but I feel like we're moving in a direction where this issue is going to become more prevalent as we move out of a workforce environment to an community work environment to a individual work environment where people are working at home, or they work for a company that there's not a lot of interaction with coworkers, and so you're not having a lot of conversation with people. And so that's the position that I'm in. So I feel like that I'm in a state where I have to communicate what, talk isn't cheap, but it is it is a lot cheaper than sex, and it's a lot cheaper than momentum or moving. So what I'm doing my best to do is provide other people a platform to diversify themselves from their own projects, and I put my own marketing money and advertising money into my project, and I include everyone that I interview in that marketing and advertising budget, so they inadvertently benefit from coming onto my show and talking their knowledge and their experiences, so that they can kind of advertise their projects, and I can help them grow as I grow, and as far as like a content creator is concerned and things go. So for this last portion here of the podcast, I want to focus on the actual production and what goes into making a podcast, the how-to. So with this, essentially, I started doing the live stream. I talked about this earlier, but I had to learn what you need to do to make a podcast. And I kind of learned this through the live streaming portion, because I didn't realize what it takes to make a podcast. What you have to do is, and this sounds dumb, but you have to record the audio. And that sounds like an easy thing to accomplish, an easy task, but it's not, because it depends the type of quality audio you want to record and then distribute. So let's talk about recording first. When you're recording, you need to have for podcasting, you need to have some sort of microphone. You need some sort of interface to communicate with a computer, digital or not. You might have a recording device connected to a microphone, or just be recording from your microphone, and you can use like a voice recorder on your phone, or some sort of microphone that records the audio. But in addition to that, you have to be concerned about the space, the data that is being processed. And if you have enough storage on your computer, your phone, your recording device, through an SD card or some sort of apparatus to record to. So you have your process of recording, and then you have your application of recording. So your recording process, and then your recording application. So you record your application, then you have the data storage. So you're storing that recording on something, and then you can utilize a distribution platform to upload to the internet for people to listen to, or you can self-distribute by uploading yourself to an RSS feed, and then going in and applying that RSS feed to a different distribution platforms like Google, Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Libsync, whatever some of these brands are that are out there. You can do a quick Google search and find your podcast distribution platform. And I highly recommend anchor.fm/Trent Knox/support. Go there, look at how the dynamic works of how to monetize your podcast, because hey, we're not out here. We are not out here trying to do this for free. And if you are, then you're trying to do it to advertise a company, or you're trying to help individuals grow, or some sort of way you're utilizing this podcast to elevate another brand or person or project or whatever that is. You're trying to do something with that. So then you have it uploaded, and you've done your recording process, and then you're working on your recording application, and then you put that application into a distribution platform, and then it goes out, and then after that you have to figure out some way of getting that podcast heard by a listener's database. And in order to do that, you have to have some sort of advertising plan or marketing plan. And either that's word of mouth with your friends and family, coworkers, acquaintances, and whatnot. But I don't advise that much, unless you know that these individuals are in the same industry as you, as creating podcasts or videos, or some sort of, they're doing something in relation to podcasting and media consumption. Otherwise, you're just going to annoy your friends and family. So I highly recommend separating your personal life and your work life. And this podcast stuff is part of your work life. So yeah, your coworkers are someone you can kind of throw this against and see if it sticks, but I don't recommend it. So you have to find new friends, essentially, and to do that, you have to create a social media page, a website, something that is gonna get your message out there, because the distribution platforms are not media platforms. They're podcast distribution platforms. Don't advertise your podcast for no reason. You have to put money in if that's an available option, or you have to be successful, and then maybe they'll put you on on the promotion page or the landing page. Alternatively, you can get into a podcasting network, and then that network is a database of shows, and people go to this website to find new podcasts. A lot of these services are behind a payment wall, so you have to pay a monthly subscription in order to gain access to being listed on their website. So you have to be concerned about that. So if you're looking to join a podcast network where other podcasts are being promoted, then you need to be aware that it's kind of like venture capitalism. So either you're putting up equity of your podcast, or as a business, you're putting up equity as a podcast in return for whatever may happen. So that means they are earning money off of your podcast, or you're paying them to put you in the advertising and marketing. So it's kind of a bit of a pyramid scheme of sorts. And but as long as they're delivering and they're putting you in their promotional work so that they're promoting their website, and then as a result you get viewership, then more power to them. But I really recommend that if you're starting a podcast, that you use free services, and then you utilize any money that you're going to be spending on elevating the production of the podcast, whether that's audio engineering, or mixing and mastering, or having a full-time recording engineer, and then elevating your production equipment, and really bringing it to another level. I don't recommend spending a lot of marketing and advertising money when you don't have a name for yourself. So if you're creating a personal brand or a business brand and then establishing a podcast, I highly recommend putting all the advertising and marketing money into creating yourself a character that already is well established, or a business that's well established, aside from any sort of production. Investing into the podcast doesn't, as far as marketing and advertising money goes, doesn't do anything but give a person one perspective of the whole pot, so that individual is going to think that you're just a podcaster, instead of sending them to the top of the funnel, you're sending them to the bottom of the funnel immediately. And I highly recommend you don't do that. Instead, I've done that and it doesn't work. It works sometimes because the person who gets to the bottom of the funnel recommends the podcast to another person. That person then you get double appreciation, but that doesn't happen very often. So recommend going straight to the source of your website, and then down on your website, directing them through some sort of landing system to get them to the podcast, to listen to the podcast. And if not your website, send them to your social media page, and then some way in there get them directed to the podcast, or your live streaming, or whatever digital media thing you're doing, movies, music, whatever that is in relation. So it's in closing, podcasting is an excellent way to communicate with other people, but it's even better to communicate with yourself and improve the person that you are, and help other folks understand what you're thinking and your perspective on reality or the world that we live in. And it also lets you kind of work out the things in your mind that may not be as clear and as certain as you think they are, whether that's a subject matter such as healthcare or fitness or entertainment. There are a variety of different subjects to talk on, and you just kind of need to pick one thing and focus on that in the episode, and that one thing will carry that episode throughout. And people who are looking to get some sort of maybe they're trying to get some entertainment out of it, maybe they're trying to get some knowledge, whatever it is, they can utilize your experiences, and everybody's experiences is different, to learn from you. And you may not be the authority, you might not be the authority on the subject matter, but everyone kind of deals with a certain percentage of subjects every day, whether that's music, information technology, Instagram, driving a car. There's the various different subjects, but you can just establish your subject matter whenever you want. First, you need to establish who you are and what you are, where you're coming from, and give people a backstory to who you are, and then talk about the subject matter, the content that you're going to be talking about on the episode, or the subject matter, content matter for the whole podcast. Maybe your podcast is focused on craft beer, like my friends on the Beerist, and you talk with your friends about beer. Then you need to establish some form or some way to let people know when your podcast is going to be available for them to listen to. And I have been tackling with this for quite some time, because I've had to kind of figure out where I am in my life, and in relation with where I am in my life, what's a good production schedule for me to get my podcast out and allow people to hear what I have to say. And I've been tackling with this. I've recorded in the evening, I've recorded in the morning, I've recorded at various different time schedules, and then after that, figuring out when to put the podcast out. There's not a lot of analytics and data to find when your podcast is being heard the most, if you're doing advertising and marketing in reference to your podcast. And so I figured out that what works best for me, as far as these solo episodes, is pushing myself to wake up early, do a little bit of a workout, like some push-ups, some sit-ups, some free weight or body squats, maybe some pull-ups, whatever I can to kind of get my body ready. But my voice is where it takes a long time for your voice to start up in the morning. to get to a place where you've utilized your vocal cords enough to get on the microphone. And I can't say that I'm all the way perfected at this yet. As you can tell, I kind of vary, and getting my voice, getting to the place where my voice is ready and I'm coming down from the diaphragm and really vocalizing it is extremely hard. And sometimes that happens in the afternoon because I haven't talked a lot, and throughout the whole day. Sometimes I go without talking for the whole day, and I don't sing or talk to myself out loud. So my mouth gets dry, and my throat gets sore. And so when I go and I get on the microphone, it doesn't translate like I normally hear my voice. Like right now is about where I am internally and externally. And then, so once you figure out when that time is for you, for when you want to get your schedule right, and you put your music or your podcast out, and then you're working on where you're gonna, like, where is important in many different ways. So if you're gonna you need to have a good production environment where there's not a whole lot of noise or gonna be a lot of distractions while you're recording, and that is a very complicated task to overcome if you're working on a small budget. Because if you were working on a small budget and you are recording in your house where there's a lot of foot traffic or animal noise, or outside, you don't have like a studio in your house, then you have to just pray that the recording is going to come out the way you want it to hear, and that doesn't always work out the best. The other thing that you can kind of want to rely on is the why. Why are you recording? And that can change by each episode. It could be that you're recording to communicate something that's, cutting edge, but maybe it's to help people. Maybe it's to learn from your mistakes. Maybe it's to talk out some sort of emotional struggle that you've had, or maybe it's to advertise for your business, to grow your brand. There are a variety of different reasons, and a lot that are valid for you to be recording and making a podcast. And I highly recommend that you do record a podcast, and that you do start communicating with people online, and letting people, who live maybe in a different country, know what it's like to live in another place, because they may decide that they want to move to Milwaukee because there's a lot of microbreweries, or because they want to be, they're in love with Miller Lite, and they want to be there. I think that podcasts are the best way to talk yourself through the hardest of times and get to a place in which you're happy with where you are, and elevate your emotional state and let people know that you're okay, and then to a certain degree, and that things aren't always as doom and gloom as they perceive, because sometimes you just don't get a chance to talk to people, and because they're moving their weight. They're pushing their weight. They're getting through their problems. And as people, as people disconnect from each other, they're in their workplace, they're listening to headphones. This just gives them another thing to listen to. And maybe it's your voice that they've been yearning to listen to. And maybe it's you that are soothing and relaxing while they're dealing with a hectic work environment. And maybe that's what motivates them to get through that hard day in which they, are contemplating negative actions. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode about podcasting. And if you have any more specific details about technical equipment, applications, whatever it is that pertains to podcasts, maybe you want to talk about the Joe Rogan experience or the Gary Vee audio experience or any of the podcasts that you listen to, whether that's a podcast about women, a podcast about dogs, a podcast about men, a podcast about cars, whatever it is, shoot me a direct message on Twitter at twitter.com/Trent Knox. Follow me on Instagram at real Trent Knox or at Trent Knox TV. Go to Facebook, like and follow me on Facebook. Make it so that you see me first. And on facebook.com/Trent Knox TV. Check out what else is it? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn right now. Go to linkedin.com/in/Trent Knox, and that's me. I'll shout out my sponsors at the end here real quick. Anchor.fm I use to create, let me get this right. I utilize Anchor.fm to, I utilize Anchor.fm to create, distribute, host, monetize my podcast, and they are amazing, and they have a lot of opportunities. I'm not quite there yet to be promoted on their featured artist or whatever page, but it's a great platform, and it's growing by the day. So I highly recommend utilizing their services. And then I use Landr, LANDR.app to master this audio after I have done the mix right for me. I put it up on this website, and it gets it sweet, it gets it sounding right, and then if I have to do any tweaks or adjustments, I put it into a bigger DAW and DAW, and I kind of do some tweaks there, but generally I don't have to do too much, so I just upload it to Anchor, and then after I use Anchor, I have Crowdfire that helps me kind of distribute my links to Facebook, Instagram, pretty much all of it. I'm focusing right now Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, those three, because they're message based. I kind of got off of Instagram because Instagram was really promoting to me a lot of negative behaviors. So I got rid of, I deleted the app of Instagram, and I stopped using it as much. But it is a kind of a complication, because if I want to put any advertisement dollars into building my podcast, Instagram stories is really important, and I haven't been able to do that lately, which is frustrating, because I would really like to use that, but I just can't. The sacrifice of being on Instagram and seeing things that make me very sad is not as great as, having that slight bit of happiness and versus that large amount of sadness. So then I've got that. Then, of course, I've been working for Postmates. So if you need to earn a little extra cash, or you're looking for a full-time gig or part-time gig, head on over to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Trent Knox. And pinned at the top is the referral code and job opportunity for becoming a Postmates fleet driver. And for the first 55 deliveries, you'll earn a guaranteed $600 in your market. It may vary, but in Austin, that's the deal. And then, so I covered Anchor, Lander, Crowdfire, and Postmates. My last sponsor is Depop. They're my online marketing place where I've been uploading merchandise, and I've only got one item up there, but I'm going to get some more items. I just need to kind of clear up my closet space so that I can afford to put more clothes in my area and find certain things that I think other people, and including myself, would enjoy as like a going out for cheap, wear this hip clothing with nice branding, and I'll try and, eventually establish my own little fashion brand in accordance with this, so then I'll have some own private labeling clothing in there. And I'm working on these projects, a little fashion. I got my friend who's in fashion, Chris Bowie, shout out Chris Bowie, and I've been doing a little fashion here, and I really like to create my own look and whatnot, because I like fashion. I don't always dress high fashion or anything like that, because I don't like trends. So like I like buy t-shirts at Walmart, or like if I go to Hot Topic, I buy something at Hot Topic. If I see a shirt that I really am, graphic tees or whatnot are something that I'm into, because they're not like it's not really an overstatement. It's not a huge statement, because I'm not like an H&M guy, or, a Hollister, or Abercrombie, or like I don't really like the clothes that cost a lot. I'm like Gucci, Versace, Louis, all that kind of clothes. Like I don't, number one, I don't have the money to spend on it, but number two, I don't particularly like all their clothes. I can't afford no Donda. I can't afford, a lot of stuff that I look at that I'm like, that's kind of hot, but I don't know if it's that lit or whatnot. But I would like to make my own brand, private labeled fashion. And if anyone's in the fashion industry that wants to communicate that, that'd be awesome. And we could talk about it, chop it up, and see what I could do, or maybe like talk to me about textiles, talk to me about sourcing, whatever it is, so I can get this thing popping, because I'd love to get it popping. That's one thing. So yeah, my sponsors: Anchor, Crowdfire, Lander, Postmates, and Depop. And so again, I'll be back on at 1:00 with DJ SAB on the ones and twos, and we'll be discussing, who knows what we'll get into, but this is Culture 2 is what it's going to be called, featuring DJ SAB. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening to this podcast, and I'll catch you at 1:00 later.